Glad you could join us today on Earthfile. Welcome to the program. I'm Ayola Kasim. Urban planners tell us that expanding our green spaces promotes ecosystem balance and healthy living. In recent times, the state and future of our urban areas have become worrisome to urban planners, city managers, and other professionals in the built environment. They warn that the disappearance of parks and gardens could exacerbate environmental issues such as excessive heat and disrupt community spaces for rest and worship. Today we will highlight what this means on this episode of Earthfile. Do stay with us.
Freedom Park came about because I felt there's a need for a park in Lagos Island. Lagos Island, the CBD, was I think in the late 90s was fast becoming a crime-laden area where you had area boys notorious for stashing bags and everything, and the city just became very congested and very not friendly at all. I felt Lagos needed somewhere where the city could breathe, a place where people could escape to, like Hyde Park or Central Park, where people could just get away and essentially interface with nature. And fortunately, Freedom Park, the site of Freedom Park, had escaped developers because the site was originally a prison for 100 years. And fortunately, after it had been allocated to 4 developers, because of a history of coups, nothing happened. So it was abandoned for 30 years until we got to start the project. But I think that was also fortuitous, because I also heard that Awolowo had cursed the place never to get developed because he was incarcerated there. But lots of interesting things. When you mentioned spirituality and everything, I think we have some stories to tell about Freedom Park and the trees there.
It is one of the unique places in Lagos, Nigeria, Freedom Park, located right in the middle of the city's noisy commercial business district. Despite its macabre history, the former Her Majesty's Broad Street prison has indeed turned to a place where the city could breathe and people could escape to.
Freedom Park was approved. The concept for
Chief Warden of Freedom Park, Theo Lawson, who is also an architect, together with the Chief Operating Officer of the park, joined like-minded people who derive pleasure in art and nature for an evening conversation on the theme, the green or grey urban jungles, what place for plants in Nigerian cities.
I grew up loving plants. When I was about 7 years old, I was taken to a hospital and I had to go periodically. That's General Hospital. And I find that every time I enter the hospital, the doctor's room, somebody comes in and puts water on some plants by the windowsill. And I was wondering, this must be good for this man if he's a doctor. That was my idea. We were living on the island, and if you know where Muson is now, used to be what we call the Love Garden. Love Garden, trees and plants. And we were living in Ajasa. And we get to go there regularly. And that also developed as, this must be something good for the health. And from there on, I used to plant little things around my house and flats. Now I worked at Muson for many years and was accused by people many times, why do we have this concrete and you destroyed our love garden? And I said, fine, sorry about that, but we have to do it. But we have a very beautiful lawn. And then I moved to Freedom Park, and not exaggerating, I think we have over 30 fully grown trees there. And every time somebody wants to come and say, where do we sit in case something happens? I say, go under the tree. What if anything happens? I said, nothing will happen. Just stay under the tree. Leaves will fall. Sometimes we put a little canopy around it. fabric, sometimes mats, just to welcome them. And they have enjoyed it. It's not very easy taking care of it during the rainy season, but we manage. We tell them, don't worry, you have a shed there. Trees are lovely to have around. Oxygen all the time.
Some researchers believe that natural heritage and green spaces are considered an important and special principle in enhancing social attachment. Experiencing nature's proximity to the living environment is said to reduce user stress, enhances physical activities, improves mood, and promotes talks with friends as well as social interactions. In other words, green spaces and gardens are said to provide a positive relationship between local attachment and civic engagement. Freedom Park's transformation has promoted cultural understanding and artistic expression, and in recent times, the management also added a new feature.
Skateboarding is an urban sport. It's a reaction to bad waves, which is natural. So if you know the history a bit, when it's not off-surface season, 3 friends took some wood, and put wheels on it and were skating to catch wave. So, and I don't know if this was amplified enough, but when we got introduced to Freedom Park, obviously, it's like a very tree-esque places, and trees kind of give birth to more trees and more trees and more trees. So on the site we had like four different specialists help us to kind of figure out how we can maneuver the space without like doing as much damage. And if we were to do that damage, what would be our reaction to that as to replace, the whole situation. I remember when we put up the progress video, we had, I can't remember who her name was, and I won't put on blast, but we had people like, why are you cutting down trees? But at the time, we had already gone to Takwa Bay, and we went as a group of us to plant 70 trees in Takwa Bay, some around the church, some in the area. And I think you were nervous, you're like, is this spot going to be good for you? I was like, this is perfect. Trees, next to the pond as you're skating, the sound, you can skate even when there's heat, because we never used to skate until like 3 o'clock because it would be too hot. So I was like, this is perfect. I can skate every day till night. I just saw the whole thing, and it's a lot of concrete and it's a lot of planning. And now I still can't believe it's there. I still get goosebumps, and I still can't believe is in Lagos. And the way we design the space was so, I think in my opinion, really beautiful. Because every time anyone goes there, it's like, it feels like we just slotted it in. It doesn't feel like invasive. You know what I mean? It feels like we saw Mother Nature's natural and Mr. Lawson's landscaping and said, how can we do everything to not really alter what is here, but more to like insert ourselves inside gently without hurting anything.
Hustle and bustle of Lagos.
As the evening progressed, the conversation delved into the benefit of experiencing nature for physical, psychological, and spiritual well-being.
When we built Freedom Park, incidentally, there's this tree we found close to one fence that fell under heavy rain. And when we're trying to remove the roots, we found this chain of snails, a chain made out of snail shells around the base. It's interesting. It was quite something symbolic. But former prison, it must have been there for ages. Maybe while the place was a prison. We didn't understand what it was, but we knew that there was some strong symbolism and spiritual essence to it. Funny thing happened at Freedom Park during, I'm not sure if you all heard of Afropolitan Vibes. Okay, yes. That ran for several years at Freedom Park. And it ran every month, every last Friday of the month. And for 3 years, it was not disturbed by rain, even in the rainy season. It rained before or after the concert. So, and we found that happened with most of the concerts or major events that had some, good vibes, I think. And we say to everybody that there's spirits here from the old prison, because a lot of people were executed there. So there's spirits here that actually come to enjoy the concerts. And if you put up a good show, they'll give you their blessing.
A 2021 report by 4 European scholars on the impact of local green spaces of historically and culturally valuable residential areas on place attachment says, indeed, green spaces are one of the areas that induce a sense of social venue. These spaces provide an opportunity for human beings to learn from each other and to express their personal and social values and to promote their spiritual growth.
Also, trees are also serving as landmarkers that are indicating the seniority of some lineage that planted them, and thus their position in the Yoruba political system in Ibadan, that is very complex, but linked also to the history of the biggest lineage of the city. They carry, as we said, also for Freedom Park, memory and history at different levels, from the lineage again to some neighborhoods and also the city as a whole. There are nods in the ritual fabric of the city for many reasons. So it answers also to the question of spirituality, because they are both hosting, for instance, many shrines for the Orisha that are visited annually by the Egungun of the city. They are also, the wooded areas are also hosting a great number of prayer grounds, orioke, by small African churches, so they are all together in the same space. And in addition, it's very important, I think, all these trees and places are said by many people to be inhabited by spiritual entities, like, for instance, kind of forest spirits, Oro, Ajuonu. People are talking a lot about it. Also ambivalent female entities like Aje or Yami. And even there are some people, older people, saying that certain trees are even animated by some particular force, the Ashe, that is at the core of the Yoruba religion of belief system. So this is a very strong thing in Ibadan, as we discovered. And finally, they are also just place for work, trade, leisure, place for a social interaction, in short, on a daily basis. So everything comes together around those trees.
In general, green spaces gives users a sense of freedom and independence, which is rarely possible in the home and work environment. Meanwhile, although urban green spaces can be a place for the manifestation of human virtues and social interactions based on their design and planning, they can also be a place for the emergence of various forms of urban crime through emancipation and improper simplistic planning, causing detrimental social, cultural, and psychological impact on the urban population, experts warn. A view shared by some of the discussants here.
Knowingly or unknowingly, we've moved away from the blueprints that our ancestors gave to us, and that includes living as one with nature and not living apart from nature, And I don't think that's the way to go. It's gonna be really difficult trying to develop when you don't know your roots, you don't know where you're coming from. So how do you know where you're going if you don't have clues from the past, or you've thrown away the clues from the past? So I think a lot of us need to actually go back into the history books, into the old movies, and emulate and observe how our ancestors lived as one with nature, and move further away from this concrete furnace that we are building around ourselves. We cut down trees, eliminating all forms of shade. So the sun is directly hitting the concrete, and it reflects, So we're just there in the middle, heat from up, heat from down, and Boli, while we're getting roasted. And it's the temperatures. You see the effects in our mood. Everyone's cranky. Everyone's looking for their next meal. And, you know, if there was a lot more shade, I'm sure we'll be a lot less stressed.
Experts say as the world's population continues to increase drastically each year and more people migrate to or are born in large cities, urban green spaces provide a much-needed respite from the hustle and bustle of daily urban living. The United Nations in 2018 predicted that 68% of the global population will live in urban areas by 2050. This continual growth of cities and urban sprawl may mean that in the near future, some people's only access to nature will be in urban green spaces, and it is believed that by understanding the benefit of these spaces will allow us to utilize them to their full potential. Although a variety of green spaces exist in Nigeria, researchers say it came to the fore that among the various forms of urban green spaces, much emphasis is given to urban trees. The governments of most African countries, in collaboration with environmental agencies, often embark on tree planting exercises in urban areas to enhance the greenery and air quality of those areas.
We should address young people specifically.
The participants at this gathering on the importance in green spaces in cities agree that architects and builders should not just start rethinking how they build, but also use the right materials adaptable to their environment.
Because we have our own way of building things. If you ever go to the village, you would see when buildings are being peeled back, you can see the clay inside. I went to Abuja and I went for a pottery thing in like Nasarawa State or something. And I walked into a hut. It was cold. And I was asked the guy, like, why is it so cold? I think I was with Kofu. I think we went to I was like, why is it so cold? And he said, oh, the way we do it is that we put a water in a terracotta pot, cold, and then that kind of like radiates into the building. And I was like, oh, so is it that simple? Architects need to get to work. I urge them to search within themselves and advocate for the right materials, respecting the environment.
Arcadis, a global consulting and engineering firm, periodically publishes a ranking of the 100 best sustainable cities in the world. Its methodology takes a holistic view of city sustainability, going beyond mere environmental protection and energy efficiency. In 2022, the Arcadis Sustainable Cities Index integrated 32 social, environmental, and economic criteria into three main pillars: quality of life, environment, and economic gain. Lagos was one of 6 African cities that stood out in the ranking for their efforts in biodiversity and technological innovation in 2022. However, these metropolises were penalized by the challenges of mobility, income inequality, and air pollution, relegating them to the bottom of the ranking. Lagos was ranked 99th, only followed by Kinshasa. One of those trying to reverse this trend is Olushola Adekoya, whose organization, Shodex Garden, turned a neglected space on Ikorodu Road, which is one of the busiest roads in Lagos, into a green space.
There are a lot of challenges, a lot of dangers inherent in neglecting your environment, especially when it comes to skill acquisition. I don't think there's any school in Nigeria in terms of that have really focused on skill development in the area of training of children, school children from nursery, primary, secondary to tertiary institution on environment. How you can have green environment, green conservation of our existent ecology, whatever, and so on. So the government has a lot of role to play in the sense that when you want to build, your setback, your embankment, your easement. In Lagos, I could recollect in those days, they normally have an easement. Easement is within a space of 10 buildings, you have like a 1 acre set aside for easement. And that 1 acre is being conserved with trees around. Today, all those spaces are sold out to people. They are built up. So there is no initiative that the government is pursuing, although we have some NGOs are pursuing greeneries, but the government has a role to play to make sure that the environmental laws that forbid people from building in those areas that are reserved for greens, like set back where they can plant grasses, shrubs, trees, like the initiative that was being led by our former governor, Governor Raji Fashola. Yes, if the government can key into that initiative, we are there for them to make sure that the initiative works. By now, we are not supposed to be talking about greenery in Lagos again. We will have an urban greenery, urban green, whereby everywhere you look at you have greens. Trees all over. Canopy trees, shrub trees at the median, canopy or the setback. You are driving under the canopy of trees.
Experts say urban green spaces can help provide ecosystem services to improve the health and well-being of urban citizens. In addition, ecosystem and service-related regulations can prevent urban residents from becoming ill. In fact, the positive outcomes of healthy behaviors can be achieved mainly through provision of cultural ecosystem services, they say.
Can you imagine if you had one plant here and there? It sort of softens you. That is the effect of trees and plants. And for the adults, I just say, where did you grow up? This is something that you should admire and like. And they then reflect and say, that is true. I remember when I went with my mother or father to so-and-so place, I saw this and so that. And I said, it started like that. You just have to. It's like Lagos everything is money, money, money. Everything is concrete. You go into an estate and you don't see trees or anything, and it's very difficult. And I think children grow up hard if they don't have that around them. I've always had trees around me, so I love it and I enjoy it. And I tell people, buy into it, it's good. I don't know whether anybody's noticed, but after COVID, everybody became a herbalist. They will say, if you take that and add that to it, it will give you that. And you go to the market and you are looking for something, the leaves of that. Luckily for us at Freedom Park, we have a lot of trees. We have moringa, we have orange, we have, we have also mango, all kinds of trees, banana. So everything grows. And I think that's because after it closed as a prison, a lot of people lived there for about 30 years before Theo came up and said, let's do something better with this place. So it's not, Lagos is different from Ibadan in that sense. Ibadan still have this tradition, but Lagos, everybody kind of looks out and say, oh, what is that? And I say, there's nothing to it. You will enjoy it. And after about half an hour, 1 hour in the park, oh, it's so relaxing. I say, oh, that's because you see all these trees.
From various researches, poverty emerged to also contribute to the depletion of green spaces in Nigeria. Lack of priority green spaces in the development agenda of cities is uncovered to hinder the growth of green spaces. Unfortunately, it has been found that access to natural spaces is becoming increasingly difficult and dangerous for many people, especially women and girls, and in urban areas. For children and especially girls, fear of crime and competing expectations around the home are said to be limiting opportunities to play outdoors in natural spaces. Experts say this means they miss out on the benefit that being in nature has for mental and physical health in children. That's our show for the week. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.